Megan?
No, not yet. There.
So we're very close to 6 o'clock and we don't want to dawdle because there are some people who are going to leave to go to the city council meeting. So we'll give them as much as we can of this forum. So welcome to the political forum tonight, organized by the Orleans County Record and the Chronicle. I'm Robin Smith with the Orleans County Record, and welcome. What we have here is the race for Orleans-2. It's a district that serves Newport City, Newport Town, Coventry, Irisburg, and part of Troy. And at the table, from left to right, what am I doing? Okay, is we have Mike Marcotte, incumbent Republican from Coventry, Kendall Lambert, independent from Newport, and Woodman, most people know him as Woody Page, Republican of Newport. And our moderator for this evening for both forums is Scott Wheeler, who is publisher of Vermont's Northland Journal, a journalist by trade who his specialty is the history of what's going on. So what I'm going to be doing is handing it over to him. He has questions prepared by the Chronicle and the Record, and he'll start off with those. Each candidate will have a chance to answer each question, so it's not a guess which one you're going to get. They're going to give opening statements. They'll get their questions. I'm going to hand out notepads and pens. If anybody in the audience has a question they'd like to ask, after we go through our questions, we'll look through these questions and just try to run through a few of them if we can. We're going to be done promptly at 7 for Orleans-1 to take the stage. So on that note, and of course the candidates will get a closing comment.
Did you explain how it works?
How it's going to work?
How the questions are?
Well, what Scott's going to do is give each candidate a chance to make their statement, and then he'll ask the question, and he'll start wherever he starts and go down the row, and then the next question will go to a different person to start and go down the row. So everybody gets a chance to be the deer in the headlights and a chance to be at the end and hear what the other people have to say. I think I covered everything. So I'm just going to pass these around, so don't take too long, and just one sentence question, please, so they can answer them. Here you go.
Well, thank you to the huge crowd that turned out. I really appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to say, I know what you guys are feeling. I served in the Vermont House. I have sat up here, and you know what? It's like walking up to the gallows, isn't it? And I would much rather be here. So in full disclosure, yes, I did serve in the House. It was a wonderful experience. So I'd like to begin by saying, I think the one thing about Vermont politics is we're not United States politics. We still have to look at each other every day. When I ran for office, I often ran against people I actually liked, and I wanted to be able to look at them the next day. And I think that's what separates us from other parts of the country, but particularly from national politics. And I think tonight will go fine, and I really commend all of you for stepping forward to try to, well, some of you, Mike, will be trying to seek re-election, and the two of you will be trying to serve our region. So I'll start with the first question.
May I interrupt? I have a timer. Set it for 2 minutes. You've got to give them a chance to introduce themselves and say why they're running.
Oh, okay.
He's as rusty as I am.
Okay. Well, my first question is, Woody, what makes you tick? Now, as in, who are you? Just introduce yourself to the folks and what you stand for.
Well, I'm originally from Newport. I'm a third-generation Newporter who has deep roots in the community. On my mother's side, there's several generations of Vermonters from the Holland area that I'm related to. I graduated from North Country High School, went on to Norwich University where I received my diploma and my commission. I went into the Air Force. I served about 22 years and 1 month and 20 days, I think it was. After that, I went into the Department of Defense. I worked for 6 years. And at around 2009, I had the opportunity to relocate to a couple of other locations. And my wife gave me an ultimatum. She said, "You better make a good choice because I'm not moving again." So rather than going to Alabama or Colorado, we decided to come home to Vermont. And that's why we're here. This is our home. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I have 3 goals. One is jobs. I think we badly need jobs for our area, good paying jobs. We need to revitalize our economy here. The other issues are taxes. Everybody complains about taxes, but I think maybe we need to have some reforms in our taxation, whether they be our property taxes, our state, or our educational taxes. Those have to be reformed. And I think we also have to be a little bit more business friendly to our businesses that are currently here and those that hopefully will come here.
And the same question.
Yep, it's time's up, sorry. I've been trying to give people 15-second warning, but I wasn't fast enough to get it out. Sorry, now I gotta figure out how to shut it off. Hang on. Right. Got it.
Come on, Robert.
Time's up.
It's your turn. I can't figure out how to stop it. Help. All right, I need high-tech personnel.
If we had a 5-year-old here, they
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, the great reveals that I don't know what
Toss
to
it
do.
out the window.
Okay. You think it just wore out because I handed it to you and you did something?
Somebody use a wristwatch.
Thank you.
Right. Am I set? Great.
Sorry.
So my name is Kendall Lambert, and I'm a resident of Newport City. I own my house here with my husband, James, who many of you know, he's in the back. And I am an 8th generation Vermonter. I grew up on a small family farm that was actually run by my mom, who's here in the audience too. And I want to talk a little bit about what I stand for in my opening statement. And I think you're going to hear a lot of similarities tonight in what the candidates are saying. We've already heard it in lowering taxes and support for agriculture. We'll probably talk about the opioid crisis and the problems there. And these are all really great ideas, and they're really great starting points for policy. But hopefully you'll also hear some differences between the candidates. And let me tell you about a really big one. The big one is that I am running as an independent. And when I approach policy, I will not be beholden to a party platform or to a party. I will be voting issue by issue. Principle over party, the NEK over party, and my constituents, you, the voters, over party. Again, I will be voting for policy, not for a party platform. Many of our reps in our district have a history of voting no, of just voting no to a lot of policies. Check our records. You can't craft good policy by voting no. We need to be proactive. If you're ready for real policy and real change, and a strong voice for the NEK, for the voice we bellowed down in Montpelier, I ask you to vote for me, because I promise to work with everybody on legislation, not just one party or the other. We are not the lost, forgotten corner of Vermont. We are the Northeast Kingdom. So I ask you to vote for me, and I will be sure to represent you and fight for the Northeast Kingdom, and I will elaborate more on my policy positions through the questions. Thank you. 2 seconds to spare.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Mike Marcotte. I'm from Coventry. I've served in the House for the last 14 years. The last 10 of those years, I've been Vice Chair of the House Commerce Committee. I spent all of my time in the legislature serving on the Commerce and Economic Development Committee. As Kendall said, things can get polarized down there once in a while, but I haven't run on the party platform. I tend to work with everyone down there. Senator Starr and I have worked a lot on different issues at the State House. It didn't have anything to do with party, it had everything to do with the Northeast Kingdom. I've worked, I think if you check with any of my friends down there that are on the other party, I think they'll tell you that I work very closely with both parties, with independents and with the progressives. I'm known there as someone that can compromise, come up with good ideas, and working together. That's what it's all about. There are a lot of issues that face us in Vermont and face us here in the Kingdom, and especially in Newport with the EB5 issues. We've been working, I've been working very closely with the city and with the administration, trying to bring more to the city. We have a lot of ideas that I think are on the table and that will be coming. The governor was here just a short time ago announcing a $2.1 million settlement with Mr. Quiros and Mr. Stanger. That money will be here for the city of Newport, and the state will be working with the city and with the legislature to bring about some progress here on economic development.
Okay, before I ask the first question, I want to give a special shout out to Julie Raboyne from the City Council for taking her time to come, because they have a big council meeting that starts at 6:30, and I believe that she's the only one of between the mayor, the city manager, and the city council who took the time to come over, so I commend you, Julie.
I do too.
Okay, first question. What can be done at the state level to address the hole on Main Street and the city's overall decline? 2 minutes. Can you answer that in 2 minutes?
Well, the property was deteriorating before it was taken down, and I think it'll take state funding, state aid, to rebuild the hole in the ground. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. It'll probably take several years before anything is done. I am concerned that it's also, the state really doesn't have the money to put into a big project that had been planned by Stenger and Quiros prior to the issues that happened to them. So I think the state is going to have to take the lead role. They're going to have to get business leaders involved, and there may be tax incentives that they're going to probably have to offer business leaders in order to rebuild that hole. As far as the deterioration of Newport, I think a lot of it has to do with jobs. We really do have to bring in jobs into this area. I think jobs will lead to a better environment here. I guess that's it. Oh, and one other thing I should mention, I was going to mention earlier, is the opioid crisis. We do have to get a handle on that here. We see it on Main Street, we see it on 3rd Street, we see it on other streets here in Newport. It's throughout the state and the country, and I think the state also has to take the lead in having some sort of program in which people that want to get clean of drugs can go and get assistance.
So I have to disagree with Woody. I think that the redevelopment of the pole across the street needs to come from the Newport residents. The impetus for redeveloping that is a local issue. As residents of Newport and residents of the NEK, what do we want to see in that hole? What do we want to see developed there? Do we want it to be a park? Do we want it to be shops? Those are local decisions. And I know the city has been working on this, and I know the residents have been working on this. I do think that there is a role for the state of Vermont, but I think that role needs to be filled out once the city has made and the residents have made a statement as to what they want and what they need, and then there's a conversation between residents and the state, and if elected me, to determine how best the state can support the redevelopment of that piece of land. As for the decline of Newport, I guess my first thought would be, we need to switch that thinking, because I think there's a lot of incredible energy here in Newport and in the NEK. There's a lot of human capital and people with vision and who are excited about living here, and I think that's a great starting point. And somehow the AC is getting louder. But that being said, I agree, but we need more jobs up here, and we need more people to work those jobs. We need families and young people here to put down roots and stay and love living here. And so in order to do that, the state can help and incentivize businesses to come here, help reduce tax burdens on local businesses. And in terms of getting a job force here, I think part of that has to do with our education system and how the state can help invest in stronger education here in the Northeast Kingdom and through the state of Vermont, as well as adult technical education, so workforce education to get people ready for the jobs that are going to be here. So I just want to point out, I guess, is that this is a joint effort, that there's a lot of energy here in Newport and Northeast Kingdom, and there's some great people here and some great businesses, and the state can come in and help, but we've got some good stuff going on here too.
Well, I prefer calling the piece of property across the street not the hole in the ground on Main Street, but an opportunity for the city, and it is a great opportunity. The site is already been cleaned up. You don't have to worry about asbestos or lead. It's ready to go. It's shovel ready. And I think what we need, I would agree with Kendall that the city has to have a vision for that piece of property, but we all have to remember that this piece of property is in private hands. And so, although we as citizens of the area can have a vision, there's still going to be developers out there that may have something a little different, but I think it's going to take a partnership between the state and the city and the residents and the developers to come up with exactly what is right for that piece of property on Main Street. I know there's a lot of ideas out there, a lot of really good ideas. And I know that the state is prepared to work with the city to be a partner and to do whatever can be done to help bring economic development to downtown. I think we saw this summer just how good things can be with the centennial that happened here. What a great job. The city looks great. And we're starting to make a turn. We're not turning our backs to the waterfront any longer. We're starting to turn towards the water and utilize that, which we should be. And working with the state, I think the city was able to lease the property behind the state office building. We had some great events there this summer, Wednesday night on the waterfront. Come through, the place is packed. It's great to see things happening in the city. And so I think we're all ready. I know that the state is willing, and I know the people here are willing, and I know I'm willing whatever we can to help bring economic prosperity to the city.
Okay, I'll go right on to the next question. And Kendall.
Do you want Mike to say it?
Yeah, I'm all set since it was right next to you. What are the most pressing issues in your district, and how would you address them?
Yeah. Well, I think the residents of Newport have really spoken in the last month or so about the opioid crisis. There were at least 2 public meetings at the United Church of Newport about this and the impact of the opioid crisis on our neighborhoods and what can be done about it. So I think this is something where the state really can step in and help with lots of resources. One thing which you may be aware of is that on September 5th, the Attorney General, T.J. Donovan, filed suit against Purdue Pharma, who is the manufacturer of OxyContin, based on their marketing of the drugs, which are pharmaceuticals, but that's where a lot of addiction starts. There is no dollar amount associated with that suit at this time, but if that suit is won by the state, that could be a significant amount of money that is then used for recovery and prevention and outreach. And if elected, I would make sure that the Northeast Kingdom definitely gets its fair share of that funding. So I think that is an issue that's really high on people's minds. We talked a little bit about economic development already, but I just want to mention I think that is a top issue for our area as well. We talked about the job creation, but also, I think the educational aspect of having a workforce that is ready for those jobs is something we need to talk about a little bit more. Our education system in Vermont could use some revamping, and we need to invest in technical education as well as educating our youth through just the general humanities, etc., to have them ready to take those jobs when they're available and be ready to apply for those. Education funding is a huge thing, and it's a large tax burden on our citizens, which is also a big concern. But one of my ideas there would be to put in a bond vote system, which is something that has been proving successful in states like California, where that money could be used to reduce the tax burden on our citizens at the same time investing in educational programs.
There's several pressing issues here. I think Kendall hit every one of them. The opioid crisis is strong in our area as well as it is in the rest of the state. We have been working, we continue to work, trying to bring people who start going through the correctional system, going to court, trying to get them into rehab as quickly as possible if they want to do that. I think rehabbing is extremely necessary. We have BART behavioral here that helps with that, to get people to get off the opioids. I think another part of that is, I think our court system has to be a lot stronger when dealing with drug dealers. It seems like people are going into court, the police are arresting them, they go into court, it's kind of like a revolving door for drug dealers. And I think we have to be a lot stronger on drug dealers. When we talk about education is another huge issue, education financing. And we haven't found a way yet to change the way that we finance education in the state so that the dollars that you spend, that you vote for your school district, correspond with what your tax rate is. That's been gone for a long time. And up here, I know that we have, most of our schools have been extremely tight on how they budget. But it doesn't make any sense when we budget either level fund or we budget less than we did the year before and our taxes go up. Why? It doesn't make any sense. We're subsidizing for other towns, and I think we need to get back to where we all understand if we spend $1, it's going to cost us $1. So that's, and there's plenty of other areas that we can talk about.
So the pressing issues again are the opioid crisis. I don't think the state should wait till a lawsuit is settled by Attorney General Donovan. I think we should be acting now to develop some sort of hospital or center where these individuals can get assistance if they so choose. We are doing some things like Representative Marcotte said, the BART program, if those individuals want, they can enroll in it. The other thing I think we need to look at is sustainable spending. It seems like year after year, our state budget continues to increase, and yet our pensions, our salaries that we have are not keeping up. So we need to do something about keeping the budget at a proper level that goes up when the economy goes up. Education certainly is an important factor here. We have less students than we had when I was a student here in North Country, and yet the costs keep going up. I don't understand why. I don't know whether it's because of administrative costs, but we should look into the administrative costs to make sure that they're at a proper level. And also I should mention the consolidation of districts that's been mentioned in the press recently. I think local control needs to be allowed. I think local communities need to look after their own schools and make their own decisions about whether or not they should combine districts and not be forced to by the state.
Okay, this is a timely question, especially with the city council's meeting tonight, which is about the landfill. So this is, what should the legislature do about having just one landfill, and how should the leachate it produces be treated? This will be with Mike.
Well, I believe that the state needs to play a role in where the next landfill will be sited. There's a lot of questions, though, that need to be answered. I think, we may think about a study committee to start answering some of these questions. Some that come to mind for me are, the question of should there only be one landfill in the state? Or should there be two? Or should there be three? Or I don't know. But we have to understand what the costs are to put a landfill together nowadays. If any of you were able to go up to the landfill over the weekend, on Saturday they had an open house. It's quite a facility. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of people that work there to keep any issues with the environment safe, so it doesn't get into our groundwater, so it doesn't get into the lake. And I believe they're doing a very good job at doing that, but there's a cost to that. And some people have advocated that the state should run a landfill. I don't know. If I had my druthers, I think I would rather have a private enterprise do it, because I think they can do it cheaper than the state can. But I understand people's issues with being the dumping ground for the whole state. But we all have to remember that no matter where we are in the state, we all generate waste, and that we have to have a place to put it. So it behooves all of us to much as we can to take out all the recyclables that we can out of our waste stream, which will reduce the amounts going into the landfill, and which in turn will give longer life to the landfill. So I think we can take a look at this in the legislature, put a study committee together to answer some of these questions.
Well, first off, I'm not crazy about having a landfill in my backyard, but it's there. I'm not crazy about, a mountain of garbage that continues to keep climbing. I'm not crazy about the trucks on the road bringing the garbage into town and leaving. But that said, I realize that they provide, Casella Waste Management provides something like $800,000 a year in tax money to the town of Coventry. They have approximately 18 individuals working there. And if you figure maybe $40,000 a year in salary, that's roughly almost a little over $700,000, I believe. And they also buy things in town here and throughout the county. So they are, in that way, a very good economic partner here in Orleans District 2. I also went up to the open house, and I was amazed at what I saw with the engineering. It seems to be a well-organized and well-run company. The employees were happy to be there and happy to have their jobs and be working there. I'm also amazed by the amount of energy that landfill produces with their, I believe, 6-7 engines that they produce energy that powers something like 700 homes in the area, and that energy stays in the Northeast Kingdom. So yes, there's some bad points, there's some good points. I wish it was elsewhere, but to have another landfill in the state of Vermont, it's going to cost a great deal of money, and I'm not so certain that anybody's going to want it. And incidentally, the leachate, I am concerned with the leachate. I hope that our Department of Sewage here in Newport that takes some of that leachate is being, I'll just let it go.
So I was at the landfill this past weekend for the open house. I was also at the September 10th meeting that was down at the Gateway. And, understand and heard a lot of the concerns of the folks who live both in Coventry and the Northeast Kingdom about the landfill and the host of problems with the smell and the height of the landfill and the trucks on the road. And, just the general concept that the Northeast Kingdom has become literally the dumping ground for, the majority of the trash in the state of Vermont. And this is unfortunate. But as people have said, the reality is that we do have the only permitted lined landfill in the state of Vermont here. So what do we do about that, and what can the state do? I think number one, the state has a role in reducing our waste stream. So less trash in the landfill means it will grow slowly and will smell less. We have composting regulations that are still waiting to come into effect. We can divert recyclables, and we could also look at packaging laws. A lot of our goods come packaged with too much stuff around them that goes right into the trash. So that's one thing the state can do. I also think the state needs to look at regulations for siting landfills. There are no regulations on where to site landfills, and we need to make sure there's a proper setback from our natural resources. And I do think that we should pursue the idea of another landfill in the state of Vermont and see if it is feasible. I don't know at this point if it is, but all options should be on the table, including another landfill in the state of Vermont and the possibility of sending more of our waste stream out of state, which is also a possibility. As for the leachate, I think this is a really complicated issue that I certainly don't have my head wrapped around the wastewater treatment facility and all of its capabilities. I do know that the city of Newport just conducted a toxicity test and a heavy metals test at the wastewater treatment facility in August, and we're waiting on the results of that to see if the leachate has any effect on the water in that way.
Okay, this is back to you, Woody, first. What is your position on retail sale and taxation of marijuana products in Vermont?
Well, one word, I'm against it. I don't think, we already have the opioid crisis that's going on, and why do we need to have another crisis dealing with the retail of marijuana? I think in the long run, I think it'll cost the state more money for regulating and licensing of this, of retail marijuana. I think it'll also influence our young adults, perhaps encourage them to use marijuana. And I just think that with the crisis that we have with opioids, that we should stay away from it. I don't think the state's going to reap any monetary benefits through it, and I think we should just stay away from it. The other thing is our law enforcement has come out and said that they're not for it, and I think we should listen to our law enforcement. There's also no device in which our law enforcement can tell if an individual driver is under the influence of marijuana. Unlike what we have with alcohol, we have that device, but we don't have it for marijuana. So I think we should stay away from it. You see other states have retail marijuana usage, and it hasn't worked out for them. The other issue is it's against the law. It's against federal law. And if you're going into the military, or if you're going into work for the federal government, you're going to have urinalysis tests. And I'm telling you right now, if you flunk those, you're going to be out. So I think we should stay away from that.
So this is actually a difficult question for me because I don't have a yes or no answer. I think if a marijuana if a bill for the legalization of retail sales of marijuana comes in front of me as a member of the House of Representatives, potentially, I would need to look very carefully at that legislation and see how it's crafted, and also speak with my constituents on the pros and cons of that legislation, because I want to act in the best interest of the citizens and what the citizens of the NEK want, and also of the state of Vermont. I do see that there is a tax benefit to the state of Vermont if we were to open up a retail market for marijuana. But I have some concerns. For example, currently marijuana is not, those who grow marijuana in other states, that crop is not regulated under the USDA the same way as other crops. And that to me is an issue. If you're going to grow and sell marijuana, it needs to be regulated like any other crop. I also would have a problem to see how the market would be set up. If it was a state-run market that's going to end up as a monopoly with complete state control, that's something that I would not be in favor of. So I'd want to see how that market was set up. So again, I think this is a really complicated issue. I understand the concerns of law enforcement and the problems with testing for impairment when one is driving. But at the same time, this substance is different than opiates and other drugs. And there have been case studies of other states where this legalization is working out. So again, difficult to say without a piece of legislation in front of me and how that market is crafted and what the ramifications of that market would be. And also, this is an issue where I would certainly need to defer to the constituents and say, what do you want for your state and how do you want to proceed on this bill?
So I think we all realize that marijuana in Vermont has become legal. It's legal to possess. You can grow your own. So it is legal now. question is now, if it is legal, then should we then legalize retail sales and regulate? And I lean towards that. I did not vote for marijuana legalization. I voted against it. But now that we have it, it's not going to change. So I think that the place that we need to go is to have strong regulations so that we protect our kids, so that we do it the Vermont way. I think we can learn a lot from the other states that have legalized marijuana. Colorado, a lot of trouble with the edibles. So I think we need to craft something in the state that has very strong regulations. I don't think that we should be taxing it and looking for a cash cow. I don't think we're going to have that. But I think we do need to tax it so that we can use that money for programs in the schools and to help in the opioid crisis and drug addiction. So depending on what comes out, what the bills look like, I think I would be in favor of tax and regulate. But again, it's going to depend on what it all looks like when it comes to the vote.
Okay, Robin, do we have time for one more?
I just want to ask, I have two questions here, one of which was already asked. Does anybody else have a question they want to pose? We have more. I have one here that addresses an earlier issue, but a little more specifically. We can do that one as well. So go ahead with that. Put this one in the mix. Anybody else? No, we're all set.
Okay, so this one? Okay, here we go. What do you want? Which one do you want to do first? This one?
Yeah, do that one and then this one and then we'll see.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
This will be starting with Kendall. What is your position on gun control?
So I support our Second Amendment rights. And I think, when we talk about gun control, we usually talk about that in conjunction with school safety. I do believe that we do not have to choose between supporting the Second Amendment and safety in schools. I would not have voted for any of the legislation this past session, any of the gun control legislation. So I guess just to touch on school safety, the safety of our children is not a question. There's no teacher, no child, no parent should be afraid sending their child to school that anyone would come to harm, especially by guns. So I think in the state, we need to invest more in our families and services and mental health services. So essentially on the prevention end of this. That all options are on the table right now for how we can make our schools safer. And, I don't have the silver bullet. That was a bad one, sorry. I don't have the answer for what those options would look like to increase school safety. But I think, that's something that the legislature is looking into and something that I would look into as, moving forward and adding, real resources for schools, real counseling, resource officers, etc., to assist in schools.
This way, so.
Yeah.
So I did not vote for the bill on gun control. I did vote for two other bills, though, that in domestic violence, where there are guns present in the house, that the law enforcement can confiscate those. And that was done, and I voted for that only after the bill was changed a little bit so that they had to go before a judge within 24 hours in order to keep the weapons from the person. So I did vote for that, and I agree with that. But I did not vote for any of the other pieces that was in the other bill. One example, I guess one thing that really bothers me is that people seem to be hinging the safety issue on this bill. I can tell you there's nothing in there that's going to make our schools any safer than they are now. Magazine capacities, use that for an example. The way the bill was crafted, the magazine capacities, if you have a magazine that holds 25, if you currently have one, it's grandfathered in. But these magazines don't have any serial number stamped on them. So that means that after October 1st, you can go to New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, and buy a magazine and bring it back, and nobody will know if you had it before or not. There's no way to trace it. So to hinge school safety on this bill that really does nothing to help the school safety, I think is a big mistake.
I would agree with everything that Mike Marcotte has said. I would have voted for authorizing law enforcement to remove firearms from persons arrested or cited for domestic assault and certain issues. I would have voted for establishing an extreme risk protection order that prohibited some persons from possessing firearms for 6 months. So I would have agreed with everything that Mike had voted for. I am for the Second Amendment. I think, as Mike said, that what the governor signed on the State House lawn will not protect our children in our schools. I think what we need is probably more resource officers, more police officers, like we had here in Newport working over at the high school. Maybe we need to invest in metal detectors in all schools. And I'm certainly not for teachers armed in the classroom.
So, Scott, why don't we do that one, and then we'll give everybody time to comment, with opposing arguments, and that, I think that would be good. Go ahead.
This one is a bit similar to question number 1, but they want more specifics. What specifically will you propose / work on at the state level to revitalize Newport after the EB5 debacle? If I remember right, this is Mike's turn.
Well, I think some of the things that we've already done, 2 years ago, when the EB5 issue came out in April, working with then Lieutenant Governor Scott and with Senator Starr, Senator Rogers, we were able to put $200,000 in the capital bill to assist Newport in trying to work through some of the issues. 20,000 of that was used for the White and Burke study. There was $180,000 left, and this year we worked on, we were told by the committees of jurisdiction that we'd better have a place to put that remaining $180,000 or it's going to wind up being lost somewhere else, somebody else getting it. Working with the city and working with the land trust, we were able to make sure that that $180,000 went to the land trust to help build the bridge over Scotts Cove, which is the last piece that needs to be done to bring traffic, Canadian people on their bikes and people walking, and to be able to to use the 7 miles of route. So that's one thing that we were able to do. I've worked with the buildings and general services and worked with the city trying to figure a way out of getting the boardwalk into the city's hands, but doing that, we need to make sure that the boardwalk is in good repair. It does need some work, so we continue to work on that, and working with the governor's office and working with the Agency of Commerce and continue to work with the city and the various committees that are out there, and coming up with ideas. There's no specific any ideas on the table yet. I think everything is out there. Everybody is willing to listen and work on it. And I think going forward, I'm right there to assist in any way that I can.
How to revitalize Newport? Well, we haven't gotten to our point here in time overnight. It's taken years to get to this point. We've lost the railroad, we've lost a number of businesses that used to line Main Street. And as I said, it didn't happen overnight. And we're not going to revitalize Newport overnight. So let's be realistic about it. I do think the tax issue is a big thing. Maybe we need to have a tax-free zone in the Newport area to try to attract people and try to attract businesses back to the area. As far as the vacant lot, I think that it should remain in private hands. I do not think that the city of Newport should take over that lot and try to develop it on its own. I think they should stay away from that. Certainly they should work with the state as well as the local population to find something that everyone would be happy to have right downtown. I guess that's it.
So revitalizing Newport, I mean, this is a huge topic. There is no single piece of legislation, or I don't think there's even one single path of legislation that can really lead to a revitalization. It's many parts coming together. And it is local control, it is community involvement, residents getting involved, and then it's the state providing assistance where needed. I think there are maybe three big areas where the state can help. We've talked about jobs a little bit, job creation, and how the state can help incentivize businesses to come to Newport, can help reduce tax burden for businesses, etc. And I touched upon this earlier, but we also need people here who are going to work at those jobs and who are going to go to the stores and who are going to come to Wednesdays in the waterfront, who are going to spend their dollars here and are going to tell their friends about how great it is to live up here. And, in order to do that, I think we need families, we need people to put down roots. And, I think that the state can really help both Newport and, across the state by giving services to families to let them put down roots here. Things like affordable childcare. The state can help with childcare so that people who are working can, put their children in a safe place where they're learning, and then they can go to work, and then they have a home, and they make money, and then they, go out to dinner. We can also improve our transportation infrastructure up here. We need to invest in transportation. We are a rural community. Everyone needs a car to get somewhere. And, and owning a car can be a huge burden. And, the fees associated with driver's licenses and inspections, those are things that can cripple low-income households. If we had a system where you could defer payment on that, or pay over time, or even have your payment waived, that's a way that we can help low-income families stay here and thrive in the NEK. So those are some ways I think the state could help.
Okay, I believe we're wrapping up with 2 minutes each.
Yep.
So we're wrapping up with 2 minutes each of anything you want to talk about.
Well, I'll just summarize what I had earlier said. I think if I'm elected, I hope to make Vermont more affordable. I want to keep our property taxes down, our education taxes, and our state income taxes, all at a reasonable level. And in so doing, I think we need to be more business friendly. The state needs to cooperate with businesses that currently exist here in the state, and also encourage other businesses to come here. Vermont has a very bad reputation for not being business friendly, and we need to start changing that. I'll give my full support to farmers, milk producers, and other agricultural programs, which are extremely vital to our area. And as a former veteran, or as a veteran, I plan to assist our Vermont Guard, their families, as well as other veterans through the legislative process.
So first off, we've been given really short answers tonight. So if anyone wants to talk to me later, we have information on how to get a hold of me, and I'd love to continue to talk about these issues. So what do I stand for? I believe in fiscal responsibility. I believe in small government, smart regulation. I believe in local control, that localities, municipalities, residents have a huge say in what goes on in your town. But I support our environment. I think in Vermont that's one of our greatest assets. It is a driver of our economy. It brings us joy day to day. We have hiking opportunities, hunting opportunities, a wonderful landscape that produces maple syrup and skiing and all those things that we really think of as being a part of the Vermont identity. And the government has a job in stewarding that environment. We've touched upon economic development a lot, but also we touched upon the tax burden. And, I think that taxes are high on everyone's minds, and we need to reduce the cost of living in Vermont. And I go back to this idea of having a bond vote in the state of Vermont that can fund programs such as environmental stewardship and our education bond. And so this would reduce the tax burden on our constituents and would give a pot of money for those programs to pull from and expand programs in our education and in our environmental stewardship. Lastly, I just want to mention again that I'm running as an independent, and I do understand what Mike Marcotte has said about being able to reach across party lines, but my understanding is that reality changes as you get down into Montpelier for a lot of folks. And I want you to know that I would not be swayed by any party, that I would be voting from principle over the party no matter what, and would look at every piece of legislation for what it is and what it can do for the NEK and for us. And that's why I'm asking for you to vote for me in November. Make your voice heard loud and clear in Montpelier, and to represent you as best as I can. So thank you so much.
I just want to thank Caledonia Orleans Record, the Chronicle, NEK-TV, and Scott for moderating tonight. I think these forums are very valuable to our constituents to understand who we are. And I want to thank Kendall and Woody also for actually putting themselves out here in front of everyone and taking up the time and energy that's needed to run a campaign. And I know that they both are here to serve their constituents in Montpelier. I'm asking for your vote once again. I've spent 14 years in the legislature. I've shown leadership, and I've shown that I can work across party lines. Party doesn't dictate how I vote. I vote for my constituents and according to the way they want me to vote. So there are a lot of issues that are before us, but I can say that the last 2 years we've held taxes steady. We haven't raised taxes, we haven't raised fees. We have finally started to budget. we're budgeting at levels that are sustainable, that we are not spending more than we're taking in. So I think we saw that this year. There's a $65 million surplus. We haven't seen that in a long time. We're doing away with one-time monies, which helps our budgets. So we're on the right track. But the only way we can do it is working together, and that's what we do in Montpelier as much as possible, is work together. There are times when we just can't see eye to eye, but I will tell you, more often than not, we do. We compromise and we do work well together. And we do have a good delegation from the Northeast Kingdom working for everyone. So again, I hope that you will support me once again and send me back to Montpelier. Thank you.
I've got to get another special shout out here to Robin Smith of the Caledonia Record. She finally mastered her, when she started here tonight, she couldn't do her timer. I suspect we're going to lose her now to an IT department somewhere. But Robin Smith of the Caledonia Record, Joe Gresher of the Chronicle in the middle, and Terry, as well as I know you, I get Terry right every time, but Del Fazio. Okay, give it a whirl.
DeFazio.
Okay, I've only known you for several years, but I'm still trying. Okay.
So I just want to thank the candidates for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience. And we're open.
We're going to have a slight break and then...
Just say it'll be on, NEK-TV will be posting it on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be, Terry, will you be having will you be uploading it as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be seen on TV and it'll be seen on the internet. So this will actually reach quite a number of people through the two papers and through NEK-TV. Thank you, and there'll be a short break, and then we'll start up with the next.